Hey guys, it's Jeff from San Diego Seed Company. Today we have a special video. All of them are special. They're all my babies, but I really am excited to talk about this crop because it's one of my favorites. Not because it's the flashiest in the garden or the most tasty, but it just has a special place in my heart. And you probably know what it is because it's already in the thumbnail. It was in the title, but it is radishes. I'm so excited to try to convince you guys who don't currently grow radishes to actually try to grow them, or if you have been growing them and you're having trouble with them, there's pest issues and little small things that I'm going to help you get around that's going to make your radish growing season this year much better. So let's get into it. Please, you guys, like and subscribe to the channel. We can't say how important it is for us to see people subscribe and actually interact with the channel. We make this channel because other than our blog and calendar, it's the best way that us as a company can get information out there to you guys about how to grow, how to become a gardener, so you're actually having fun and you keep being a part of this community. What do you need to grow radishes? So first things first, let's just talk about soil real quick. Since radishes are a root crop, one thing that will deter your radish success is hard, compact soil. So you're going to want to have light, airy soil, and the reason being is if the soil is really compact, the radishes can't bulb out as well. So if you have light, airy soil, you're not impeding them from bulbing, so that's step number one. Next, let's talk about fertilizer real quick. Radishes aren't something that you're going to need to add extra liquid fertilizer or extra granular fertilizer to. So if you have well-amended soil and you've added fertilizer at the beginning of the season, that's going to get you through the whole season of radishes, so no need to do any extra fertilizer. So in front of me I have a row of drip line tubing, and I actually just harvested a row of radishes. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you plant radishes is get everything out of the way. Give yourself enough room to rake this out and kind of help get the soil loosened up. So let me do that now. Here's the trick. If you take a clump of soil, squeeze it in your hand. If it stays together, it's perfect. If it falls apart, it's too dry. But if you squeeze it together and water runs out, it's way too wet. Okay, before we plant, I wanted to come back here, look at these seed packs, and check out some information. The first thing I'm going to say is one of the best things about radishes, and that's how quickly they grow. You can get some varieties that days to maturity is 25 days. That's less than 4 weeks, less than a month, that you're going from seed to something you can actually use in your kitchen. So that's incredible. The other thing that we need to know before we plant is how deep to plant them. You'll see planting depth here is about 1/4 of an inch. Now, if you guys are like me and you're like 1/4 of an inch, that's so small. There's no way for me to get exactly 1/4 of an inch across an entire row. Don't worry about it. It's just a target. You don't want to put them a full inch down, and you don't want to put them on top of the soil, but about 1/4 inch is your goal. If you're off 1/8 of an inch here or there, it's going to be completely fine. If you notice that you're getting a really low germination rate, meaning there's not a lot of them that are popping up, even though you sowed a bunch, there's just holes in the row, the first thing I would check is water. If you know that it's being sufficiently moist, the second thing I would check is how deep you're planting them. You're probably planting them too deep. One of the reasons why you plant them a certain depth is when the seed actually comes out of the seed coat and the cotyledons and the stem come up out of the ground, the seed actually needs friction from the soil to pull the seed coat off. So if you haven't planted them deep enough, there's not enough soil to pull that seed coat off. But if you are seeing a lot of seed coatings staying on your first 2 leaves, that's a telltale sign that you're not planting them deep enough. Now, even though I did the soil test, I'm still going to put a little bit of water on it because I've found that when it's just a little wet on top, it's much easier to make this furrow. So I'm going to go ahead, just use my hand and make this go all the way down. Okay, so now I'm going to take my crimson giant radish seed. I'm going to just go ahead and dump them all out of my hand, and then do my best to get them, about every 1/4 inch, but like I said, we're going to go a lot heavier than we would with some other seed, just because it's radish seed. If you're trying to be really economical, you can just poke holes, but you are going to find the more that you do it, that this is the best way to do it. The other thing that I think a lot of us don't take into account is just the pest issues that happen. Little bugs will pinch off small starts, things get dug up. So the more seeds you plant, the better chance you have of getting a good, nice full row of radishes. Okay, so this next part could go one of two ways. I'm going to tell you the easy way first, which is take your trough, put your seed down, and then kind of pinch the soil over it from both sides, and just use the soil that's already in the garden to cover up those seeds. If you do that, you're going to have great success. Borat. But there is another way that you can start seeds that I highly recommend when you're using really, really small seeds, like a lot of herb seeds and flower seeds. I'm going to take potting mix and some kind of sifter. You've seen Bridget do it before. She'll just take something out of her kitchen, but it's 1/4 inch mesh, and I'm going to take this and just sift it. Now, obviously, the smaller the mesh, the smaller the particles that fall down to the bottom are going to be, but I found 1/4 inch is just about right. Now I've got really, really fine, fluffy soil that's been aerated, that's super light, and I'm just going to take this and sprinkle it on the seeds. So one thing you are going to want to pay attention to, if you use this method, remember this soil came out of the bag, it's dry, you're going to want to water them in a little extra than you would normally. Anytime you're watering, you're always going to want to give it one pass and then wait, let it soak down, and then do another pass. What I'm going to do is cover these seeds with a board. And you're saying, why would you do that? Well, it helps keep the moisture in so you don't have to water as much. Yes, you are going to get drip from these, but these emitters are 12 inches apart. They're only on 15 minutes a day, every other day. So that's not going to be enough water to keep this whole area moist if I'm letting the sun beat on it all day. As soon as you start to see one, take the whole board off, and you're going to find that you get a lot better germination. Now, if that seems too risky for you, the tip I'll give you is just make sure you water. You don't have to use a board, you can use cardboard, you can use row cover or shade cloth. Anything to keep the moisture in is going to do the trick, because that's the goal with this method. Okay, so now we're over here at a row of radishes I planted about a month ago, and I want to talk about thinning. So once your row of radishes pop up, you're going to get a lot of plants, because remember, we seeded heavily. What you're going to want to do, and this is the method that I take, is every couple days go out and take out a few until you get to 4 inches. If you were to come out the very first day that they're all up and go to 4 inches then, God knows what's going to happen. A cat might walk on them, a lizard comes by and eats them. I don't know if they eat them, but who knows what happens at night while we're asleep. You want to give yourself every chance you can for these plants to actually grow to maturity. And if you're picking them out too early, that's not going to go so well. Okay, I'm not much of a selfie camera guy, but let's see how I can do with pulling out some of these radishes so you can see what they look like coming out of the ground. Then we're going to talk about pests. Okay, so one quick note before we get into pests. Earlier I said I'm going to empty the whole pack into my hand. Wanted to let you guys know that that was not the whole pack. I'd used that for a row before. If you look on the back, this is actually cool. Area to sow is a 30-foot row. So if you get this and you sow them relatively by the directions, you're going to get about a 30-foot row of radishes, which is a pretty good deal. Okay, so now let's talk about pests and problems. So let's start with this guy. Notice how at the bottom it's split. It doesn't make the nice pretty bulb, kind of like this one is. Splitting is an issue of inconsistent watering. So if you go out to your garden and it's been dry and you're like, oh my gosh, the soil is completely dry, and you just water a bunch, you're going to see a lot more of this. Now, some smart viewers might be saying, well, why didn't they all split? Well, this is just a product of, it's not an either or. If you notice on this one barely started to split. I bet maybe if we gave this a day or so, it would have split, but maybe it was just further along than the other ones, and it was tough enough to not split when it got that inconsistent watering. This is totally fine to eat. You probably wouldn't get this at a Michelin-starred restaurant, but we can eat it in our kitchen. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with this. Just wash off any dirt they got in there. The other one, you'll see there's little nibble issues on the top of this, and this is just bugs, pill bugs, slugs, little things that get in there and just try to eat the food, which is completely natural. They're trying to survive too. If it's an issue and you're just finding yourself completely grossed out by it, or it's just something that you want to take care of, Sluggo Plus before you plant the seeds, maybe a week before, is going to take that population down, and you're going to see a lot less marks on your radishes. There are holes in these from leaf-eating caterpillars, and I don't see it on this leaf, but aphids can also attack your radishes. But for both of these, the radish grows so quickly, we don't spray any kind of BT or take care of the aphids with a neem oil or anything. Because they grow so fast, they can kind of outcompete any damage that the leaf comes into. And finally, probably the most common problem with radishes is when they start to get pithy, or they start to kind of have a hard center. Some people say it's woody, the stem gets really thick, and what that is the plant going to flower. Now you're going to encounter this as the days get warmer and the days get longer. I'm shooting this in January, and we have no issue of these going to flower. Now if I let them stay in the ground for 2 months, of course they're going to go to flower. It's not just a product of the day, but also the lifespan of the radish. So if you're on top of it and you harvest before the plant sends out its flower, you're not going to have to worry about this. That happens to all of us. You plant a row of radishes, you completely forget about them, and you come out and they're fully bloomed. What I would do in that situation, if you don't need that space, just let them go ahead and flower and attract pollinators. And if you really don't need that space, let them go to seed, and then you can save seed for next season. Okay, so if you've never grown radishes, trust me, I don't know why people say they don't like them. It's so delicious. I guess they're a little spicy, but if you throw these cut them in half, throw them on the grill, slice them up, put them in the oven and roast them, that spiciness goes away. So give it a try. Let us know how it goes. For those of you who do grow radishes, drop it in the comments. What are your favorite varieties? What are your success stories? What are your tips and tricks? We want to hear from you.